Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Under the Radar. I am your host, Sammy Bovitz. Hey, everyone. First of all, I know it's a bit early. I would like to say this, though, about the whole Halloween special thing. I am going to say this flat out. I think I have done way too many specials and whatever, and premiere and whatever. This is going to be the last one for a while. I think, obviously, the State Sports Special is a whole different thing. I'm super pumped for that, but that's not going to be until December 23rd, which is around 2 months from now. So this week, we are going to be talking about an article that I saw last month on ESPN.com, and really, when I read articles on ESPN.com, or I read it in my Sports Illustrated subscription, I like them. I appreciate a lot of these articles, but this one really stuck with me. I don't know why, but I instantly thought I gotta make an Under the Radar special about this, and I was like, when can I do this? And I also wanted to do something sort of not spooky, but a little dark for Halloween, and this is what I came up with. So that's what's gonna happen. And also, just don't even talk to me about my Dodgers. They should have won last night. Even this is the first time I've agreed with Donald Trump on something. They should have kept in Rich Hill. Any other news from me? Hopefully the sound quality's better because this is my first show on my new MacBook, and I think I should jump right into it, and that's what we're gonna do. So. The ESPN article, for reference, it's called When Fandom Goes Bad, Most Miserable Fan Bases in Pro Sports. It was published 76 days ago, so that's a while back. And the writer is TJ Burka. And, with his opening, he talks about how, teams, it's rare and whatever, and if you think it's this, you think it's that, whatever. He talks about, what they refer to as a sports misery index, and here there are 5 primary factors. And I'm gonna say this right from the article. So number 1 is championships. The more and more recently you win championships, the less you have to complain about. However, if your most recent championship was 25 plus years ago, like the Dodgers, it's almost as if you've never won at all. Okay, number 2, playoff berths. How are you going to win a championship if you don't make the playoffs? It's bad enough to not hoist the big trophy at the end of the year. But not even putting yourself in the postseason is cause for a venting session or 10. We won't tolerate too much belly aching from teams that are always in the postseason. Playoff wins, great, you're in the playoffs, but what's the point if you don't do anything once you're there? Seeing your team go 1-and-done in the postseason is quite painful, almost as bad as not going in the first place. But if you win playoff games every year, you have less reason to complain. Heartbreaks, it's one thing to lose. It's another to get your heart ripped out of your chest, Temple of Doom style. Wow. Whether it's blowing a big lead, losing a Game 7, losing the last second, or simply losing a title game, it's okay to be miserable. However, some winning teams scored high on this metric because you're going to have more bad beats the more you play at the final table. Rival comparison is 5. Having your team stink and break your heart is bad enough, but having the fans of your teams you hate celebrating championships and playoff wins is salt in the wound. Note this formula takes into account the recency factor. Winning a championship in the past 5 years does not allow you to be miserable, nor does anyone care about some heartbreak that happened 30, 40 years ago. Cough, Bill Buckner, cough. Stuff that happened last season is factored more than stuff that happened 5 years ago, which means more than stuff 10 years ago, which means more than stuff 11, 20 years ago, which means more than, you get the picture. Significant relocations apparently are also downplayed. For example, a Colts fan should not bellyache about the heartbreaks of the Colts in Baltimore, and a Los Angeles Rams fan that does not get to shred of stuff about what the greatest show on turf did in St. Louis. Los Angeles Chargers get to own San Diego's misery because A, LA and San Diego are quite close, and B, I'm pretty sure most of the Chargers fans still live in San Diego. Obviously, I'm reading this all from the article. It says also, and then it wraps up by saying also Houston Texans fans don't get to complain about the Houston Oilers, but we'll allow new Winnipeg Jets fans to complain about the old Winnipeg Jets. So those are all the requirements. To recap, championships, playoff berths, playoff wins, heartbreaks, and rival comparison. So I'm just going to start right off the bat with their number one overall overall choice. I'm going to be breaking down the rankings soon, but I do want to just pay attention to their number one choice. They do say, and you know what? This is definitely not a stretch at all. They say the Sacramento Kings with, I don't know how they score the points, but they say 27.1 points for the Sacramento Kings. And you know what? The Kings are a very miserable franchise. Right now, the only thing they have to be they're excited about is Marvin Bagley III, De'Aaron Fox, and of course their new arena. About their we'll get to Bagley in a second, but I do want to talk about the I believe it's called the Golden One Center for a second. So the Golden One Center is the new home of the Sacramento Kings. I'm just gonna check just for kicks. Is it on Google Maps? Because if that's not on Google Maps, you know what? First of all, I don't blame you. It's not a landmark, I wouldn't say, but that would be kind of funny. Golden One Center. Okay. So it is on David J. Stern Way, which I think is kind of sucking up to the former commish, but you don't really need to do that. And then, so yes, the Golden One Center is on the map. Thank God, on Google Maps. I'm looking at the street view right now. This is a street view from the locker room hallway, I guess. Doesn't look very good. Let's see. Is there any other actual views from the arena? Okay, so the Golden One Center is pretty nice. It's a very modern center. I will say that it's definitely that, if anything. So the Golden One Center is the new arena of the Kings. Most people seem to like it, I will say that. To their credit, the Kings did build a beautiful arena. And I'm guessing that was probably one of those latest ploys, we're gonna move to Tennessee if you don't let us build the Golden One Center. Which is not, I think it's like a bank, but Golden One, sounds like one championship, which pretty much sums up the Kings. I believe they have one championship. I'm not sure if they have any, actually. Oh, this one's cool. Okay, so the Golden One Center was opened on September 30th, 2016. Ground was broken in 2014. So yes, and I'm looking at the history as part of the successful effort to keep the Kings in Sacramento. There you go. So it says this is what it says on Wikipedia. It says Golden One Center reflects the fabric of Northern California by utilizing regionally sourced materials that range from glass to recycled aluminum to potentially precast concrete, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's technology. It says the main video board is 84 feet long, 10 feet shorter than the basketball court, developed with Panasonic. According to a Kings News release, the arena is, quote, the world's most connected indoor sports and entertainment venue. Wow. Okay. Apparently there was wrestling, MMA, bull riding, obviously basketball. And yeah, the Golden One Center is a pretty fairly new. It's their third season at the Golden One Center. The website looks fairly similar to the Barclays Center website. I will say that. And yeah, so that's the Golden One Center. So there you go. Wow, it's his 4K video board. How about that? Okay. So yes, there is the Golden One Center, but then I do want to talk about Mr. Bagley III, Marvin Bagley, I, as it says on his jersey, if you're going to take it literally. Okay. So Mr. Bagley is the newest hope for Kings fans. Their team is kind of tough. So he was drafted second overall in the 2018 NBA draft. And this, honestly, the Ayton pick did not surprise me. The Suns usually take the best player available, and Ayton was the safe best player available. One could argue it was Doncic, but that was a whole different thing. Bagley was picked ahead of guys like Doncic, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae Young, Bamba, who was arguably better, Wendell Carter, Colin Sexton, Mikal Bridges, not Mikal Bridges, but there's a lot of talent for number two. I think, especially with Doncic, Jackson Jr., Young, Bamba, Wendell Carter. They could have gone any of those guys. Honestly, if I was going to rank all those guys, I would probably do Doncic and then Jaren Jackson and then maybe Bagley, but also Trae Young is up for consideration. Or Wendell Carter probably. So probably I would rank 3 guys. Aiden would be my first pick too. Or no, Doncic would be my first pick, and then Aiden, and then Jackson, Carter, and Young. But and Bagley's probably my 6th pick by the Magic, if it's in a perfect world. But Bagley, you could argue he's reach. You can argue he wasn't, but so far, he's been not really that notable. He, if you pull up his page on Basketball Reference, let me pull it up quickly. So on Basketball Reference, Marvin Bagley he's played 6 games, started none of them, which I don't blame the Kings. He's played 24.3 minutes total. 13.7 points per game. Oh no, it's 24 minutes per game. It's 13 points per game. So solid. Hasn't been tearing it up exactly, but that's okay. In total, he's hit 2 3-pointers, which is 2 more than I thought he would this season. 54 2-point attempts, 31. So a free throw percentage of 56, which is not that great, although small sample size. So it is the field goal and free throw percentage are pretty much identical. He's played in a total of 146 minutes, and he scored 82 career points. So, okay, Bagley, small sample size, but I would say he's solid. Again, I wouldn't say Bagley is a bust kind of guy. I would say he's kind of my prediction for his career. And I know Kings fans might hate this, but I think he's going to be a Rubio kind of guy, a guy with a lot of potential and very hyped, but really not a guy, just a solid guy ultimately, and not really anything in the end very amazing. Like, it's not like the point is Marvin Bagley is not the guy that the Kings thought they were getting with number 2. And, this number 1 prediction does say that. Obviously, the Kings were good occasionally, but they lost to the Lakers. And then they lost to the Lakers. Oh, and then they, what did they do? Oh, they lost to the Lakers again. Basically, the Kings kind of are terrible, and now the Suns seem to be on the rise. And they're in win now mode for some reason. Because they traded for all those veterans like Ryan Anderson and Ariza, or was that those might have been signings, but and there's obviously the Warriors. The Lakers have LeBron. The Clippers are in LA, so they'll get something done. The Kings are, in my prediction is they're probably going to get number 1 overall pick this year. So the Kings are not going to change anytime soon. I really do feel bad for them, and the fact that they're ranked number 1 is not surprising to me at all. I just searched the Kings. The first 2 results I got, and this is were Kings Food Markets, Rages at Kings News, LA Kings, Kings Theater, Kings on IMDb, the Kings College, King on Wikipedia, 1 Kings Lane, Storm King Arts Center, the Sacramento Kings aren't even on the first page, King Restaurant, Kings on NBC.com. Wow, look at this. This is actually interesting, because I'm looking at Google, and they are not even on... Are they on the 3rd? Okay, they're finally... Here it is. The Kings, right now, I searched Kings without Sacramento, and they were the 3rd, on the 3rd page. They didn't even make it a merit of mention until the 3rd page, 2nd website, which I think is crazy. But the Kings, they're 9th in the Western Conference. They're 3-2? 3-1? Wow, they're 3-1, actually. They beat the Thunder. Alright, fine, Kings. So the Kings things are looking up for the Kings, but again, when the roster suggested by Google is Bagley, Shumpert, Fox, you got a long way to go, Kings fans. I'm sorry. Number 2, I have a friend of mine that lives in San Diego, but he's a Red Sox, Warriors, and Seahawks fan, so whatever. But the Padres are number 2 on this list. Sorry, I kind of wasted time talking about the arena and such. But, arenas and uniforms and all that obscure stuff. For some reason, I love talking about it. The San Diego Padres, they signed Eric Hosmer, which was an okay deal. But which was an okay player to get. Like, he's a solid guy. He's not the best, but he's good. But what I haven't told, if you guys lived under a rock during the Major League Baseball offseason, Eric Hosmer got a tiny deal, very minuscule from the San Diego Padres. He previously he's 28 years old right now, so he's in his prime. He was ready for a big deal. Obviously, in 2017 he had a 1-year, $12 million deal. Before that, he signed a 2-year, $13 million deal. Won some solid, some mid-level earnings, right? And then Eric Hosmer's in his prime now. He's part of a pretty good but not amazing free agent class. Obviously, JD Martinez was an example of what people thought was overpaid, but as we saw this year, that was not an overpaying. On the other hand, Padres tried their hand at the overpaying magic, and they ended up with this ludicrous deal for Mr. Hosmer. They signed him for 8 years, $144 million, for $21 million a year, and he is not a free agent until 2026. By that time, Donald Trump will at least be out of office for 2 years. I will be 21 years old. LeBron James will most likely be out of the NBA. He'll be 41, so we'll see. I don't know. Vince Carter will have finally moved on. I don't know. By the time 8 years pass, I guess Aaron Fox is going to become a grizzled veteran or something. Or Walker Buehler will be in his prime. But basically, when 2026 hits, Eric Hosmer is going to have a lot of money, $144 million, which is... Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, all of it is guaranteed, at an average annual salary of $18 million, and, of course, a signing bonus of $5 million right off the bat, so obviously Eric Hosmer is set for life. The Padres, however, are not set for even next year. Let's take a look at their depth chart for a moment, because this is sort of like a weird... Because what I did want to do is I want to go back to a few teams, which I will do at the end, and I will discuss a reason for hope for each of the teams, and I'm going to get to that later. But obviously Hosmer is instilled, and hopefully they did. Eric Hosmer is your first baseman. Corey Spangenberg, who is a solid utility player, would probably be in AAA on most teams. Freddie Galvis at shortstop. Will Myers at third, for some reason. Second or third position move already. Hunter Renfroe, a solid power hitter at left. AAA man, Margot in center. This Reyes guy in right. Hedges, basically, it's a bunch of prospects. A couple of weird, not-so-good veterans in Galvis and Spangenberg. And a couple of overpaid vets in Myers and Hosmer. And obviously they have a pretty bad bullpen. Yates, Stammen. Their rotation, their ace, so-called ace right now is Robbie Erlin. And just for kicks, let's take a look at the Padres free agents. This really is a sad affair if you're a Padres fan. Just looking at this. So in 2019, they'll have their starting shortstop Galvis. They'll probably let him go. He'll be overpaid by someone else. A.J. Ellis, he's 38. He's probably done for unless Kershaw convinced the Dodgers to sign him. Carter Capps, 28 years old, relief pitcher, probably trying to go somewhere else and get a reduced role. Matt Caesar, something like that. He's been bouncing around. I don't think he's going to do anything, really. And then a bunch of old relief pitchers and one old right fielder. So really not too many notable guys, but obviously it's an insane free agent class this year. But just looking at it, Guys like Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, I believe. Wait, let me look at Mike Trout for a second, honestly. Because I do want to think about, like, Mike Trout, like, where does he fall? When is he an unrestricted free agent? Okay, so they signed him to an extension. Okay, never mind. Okay. So he won't be around until 2021. Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, it is a loaded free agent class this year. And the Padres will only lose their starting shortstop, basically. And no one else in their depth that's notable because there's not many players in their team that's notable. I do want to look at Will Myers for a second because Will Myers moved from first base to left field to first base to third base, back to left field, back to first base. And Will Myers has been that guy with the most potential on the Padres. He was traded from, again, the Royals. And he was kind of like the most touted prospect for the Padres for a long time. Like, people thought he could do big, big things. Like, Chris Bryant level stuff. Like, in his prime. So the Padres have him on a 6-year, $83 million deal. Then they signed that in 2017. They really saw his value go down a little bit. He was traded from Tampa Bay, excuse me. And then, so he's gonna have like a bad base salary until 2020 when he's got $20 million a year for like 4 years. He is gonna be. I will say this. He is going to. All $83 million is guaranteed, by the way. And Myers. He's got free agency in 2024. And he'll be 33 by then. So the Padres have him under contract until 2024. Again, they'll be around that time. Well, once he's a free agent, we'll be recapping all the glorious things that happened at the 2024 Olympics in Paris, and of course, looking ahead to the next games, the 2026 ones, and I believe it'll be Beijing. Basically, Will Myers and Eric Hosmer, for better or for worse, are both signed on as part of the Great San Diego Experiment for a long, long time. I just saw something very sad. I'm going to say this. MLB.com is advertising the World Series MVP voting because they assume it's going to end tonight, which, not very good for me. The Cleveland Browns are number 3, which, you know what, I'm not even going to talk about that. I might have an entire episode. Like, the Cleveland Browns, like, I'm not even going to talk about them because there's so much content just floating around on the web and in newspapers and on TV, radio, every sports platform, it seems, is talking about how bad the Browns are. And honestly, that's going to turn around soon. I really think the Browns can turn it around. They have a good core. I love Mayfield. I love how they had Hyde. I don't know why they traded him. I love Jarvis Landry. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Number 5 is the Buffalo Bills. I think I believe next week I am going to discuss the Bills. So I'm going to skip them for now. I want to talk about another team, though. Number 6, the Milwaukee Brewers. It's kind of painful now because they lost in Game 7. They were dominated in Game 7 by us, who now are getting dominated by the Red Sox. So I will say the Brewers, I don't think they're as miserable anymore because they did have a good run this year. Number 1 seed in the National League. Just really had a good run. Almost made it to the one game away from a World Series. It really sucks to lose in Game 7 as a Dodgers fan. I know that. But you know, the Brewers are not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. No, they're not going to go down on this list, unfortunately. Okay, I'm seeing the Cincinnati Reds. The Buffalo really sucks. Chicago Bears are number 10. Man. I don't know about the Bears, because the Bears, I like them going into the next year. I am gonna before I move on, I would like to say reasons for hope for the Kings. More lottery picks, and reason of hope for the Padres. Tanking will work eventually. So I can't really say anything else. I mean, the Kings and the Padres are so miserable. But the Bears, I do have a definite reason for hope for them, and that's because their offense is already great. So the Bears, first of all, the Bears, they beat the Jets easily today, in their beautiful throwback Monsters of the Midway uniforms, which I think are amazing. They got some pretty cool art on there, like Jets versus Bears thing. That's really cool. It's something out of a comic book. Check out the Bears website on their depth chart, or just on the Bears website, because they got a really cool. It might be fan art, which might just be about the Jets and the Bears. That's really neat. I wonder if they have that every week. So their offense, the number one, their first string quarterback, not surprisingly, is Mitch Trubisky. I did not like, and I think this is almost a universal opinion right now, but I did not like that trade in the 2017 draft with Mitch Trubisky. First of all, the Browns, everybody knew going into the 2017 draft, knowing that the Browns are 99.9% going to take Myles Garrett unless something crazy happens or they trade their pick or whatever. So we all knew the Browns were taking Garrett. So Garrett was already off the board for everyone else, and they knew the Browns weren't going to give everyone that pick. So they were like, okay, well, what are we going to do? So the 49ers had that number 2 pick, and the 49ers locker room, I know this because I've heard about it. The 49ers just wanted, I believe it was Solomon Thomas, or Jonathan Allen. I think it was some defender, and I believe that's who they eventually drafted. They drafted they wanted Thomas. Yeah, so they wanted Solomon Thomas with the number 2 pick. And that word was kind of getting around with that. And people were and people in the 49ers inner circle were like, okay, we need if a good trade comes for a number 2 pick, that means we don't have to trade down that far. Fine, as long as we can still get Thomas. So the 49ers decide, okay, the Bears offer comes in, and the Bears decide to offer the Giants to trade up. The 49ers to trade up. So the 49ers were mulling their options. Obviously, they really were wondering, what are we gonna do? Here we go. The Bears decide, okay, we're going to trade up a spot. The offer comes in. Chicago says, okay, we'll give you the number 3 pick, our 3rd round pick, one of our 4th round picks, and a 3rd round pick from 2018, which was this year. So they were like, okay, here we go. Okay, trading up. Remember a little bit of context. The Bears thought, oh, they have a placeholder. Everybody saw them signing Glennon as a placeholder move, so they can sign a real good quarterback once the 2018 loaded quarterback draft, which is true, comes around. So, the offer comes in. They say, okay, here we go. The 49ers are definitely scared because they're like, if they take Thomas, we're going to be upset. Maybe we'll take Fournette. Maybe we'll take a QB. Who knows? We'll see. The 49ers eventually had Garoppolo, so they're fine until Garoppolo. They're not fine right now because he's injured. But I digress. The Bears, okay, the pick comes in, and the 49ers cannot imagine their luck. The Bears took Trubisky, and I know I'm kind of building up to this, saying this was a stupid move, whatever. Trubisky is a great player, sure, but I will say this was a stupid move on the Bears' part for one reason: the 49ers were not going to draft, and I'm saying this with a very high degree of certainty. The 49ers were not going to draft Mitch Trubisky with the 2nd overall pick. We all know that by now. Sports Illustrated, ESPN, etc., they've all reported it. The 49ers did not want to draft Trubisky with the number 2 overall pick. Neither did the Browns with the number 1. So if the Bears just stuck to their spot and not been frantic, they would have gotten Trubisky without giving away all their picks. Maybe those picks will turn into something, but who knows? I don't think this will be a bad trade on the level of like the Nets or whatever, or the Nets Garnett Pierce trade, which I'm going to do a special on. Down the line, I'm thinking, because that really shapes all of NBA history right there. But of course, eventually, so now, I mean, I don't think it's a bad trade. It's a bad trade because of what they could have done, just stuck with that. But Trubisky is good, but not great. Like, I don't think he is a bust, but again, he reminds me of probably a guy like, wasn't like Sam Bradford picked first overall one year? Like, he kind of reminds me of that in a way. So there's that. I would like to say this, though. The Bears have hope because they have two great running backs in Howard and Tariq. They've got Mitch Trubisky, obviously. They've got some solid wide receivers and guys like Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson, Kevin White. With some really strong upside, those guys. And then their tight end position is not the best. I mean, Trey Burton's a solid guy, but not the best. They could upgrade it there. Defense-wise, though, they're on the rise. And I think the missing piece for them was a real big name to just frighten the hell out of other opposing offenses. And I think they finally found that. They traded for Khalil Mack, which I think was first of all, the Raiders should have definitely tested the market further. I obviously discussed this earlier when I talked about the Raiders, but really the Bears had a really not very good trade with the Trubisky trade because they just could have just kept it and drafted him without giving up their picks. And then the Bears went out there and made a brilliant one, trading next to nothing for Khalil Mack. So, Bears fans, I will say this. Your trade was not great. You guys have a miserable fan base. You guys need titles. And it's a tough NFC North out there. But I will say this to you, Bears fans. You guys are definitely on the rise. You guys are not on the decline. And I see potential for a playoff contending team in 2-3 years in the future. So I think, and if they get a great free agent this offseason, I see sooner. And if they can get a trade up for a great pick or get a good pick, again, sooner. So the Bears definitely are going to be an interesting team to watch as we go into the 2020s. And then, of course, number 11, it says the Jets. Not surprising. 13 is the Lions. Also not surprising. Also one of my favorite teams. I also this about the Lions. Their reason for hope right now is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford currently has the biggest contract, the highest paid. He's the highest paid player in all of the National Football League, one of the highest paid players in all of sports. Or no, he's the second highest behind Garoppolo. Excuse me. And Mr. Stafford is really the Lions paid for really one of the more underrated and one of the better arms in the NFL. Like, Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback. And I know people disagree with me on this, or people just say, oh, you're just a Lions fan, whatever. But Matthew Stafford, just to the naked eye, has an incredible arm and can really turn things around in an instant. I believe Detroit had like 7 or 8 comeback wins last year, and that propelled them to the playoffs. That's because Matthew Stafford knows how to make big plays at any time. People say, oh, what if it would be better if the Lions just got easy wins every time? Fine, sure, I'll give you that. But I will say this, if there's a guy in the second, I mean, Tom Brady, you can have your Tom Brady or Joe Montana. But if Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and I guess Aaron Rodgers are already taken in the draft of I guess Drew Brees too. There's a lot of great quarterbacks. But like right now, like if I had to choose a comeback quarterback right now, Matthew Stafford might be the guy I choose. Like, honestly. Like, he might be the best comeback kid in the league right now. Obviously, I'm going to get a lot of heat for that. Brady, Brees, Rodgers. There's a lot of great quarterbacks right now out there. People are going to say Garoppolo, which I won't understand. People are going to say Wilson and Newton, and I'm going to say no, not with the weapons they have around them. But for my money, Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he should be taken seriously that way, and that's why. That's my reason for hope for the Detroit Lions. It's just, in 2 words, Matthew Stafford. Like, he's synonymous with the hope of the Lions franchise. And I do want to, we are almost halfway through. We are halfway through. The Lions are number 13 on this list. I'm gonna take a quick, not like a halftime break of sorts, not a commercial break, but really just thinking about what we've seen and heard so far. Like, the Kings and the Padres are definitely the two biggest, I wouldn't say biggest names, but most imposing as far as, like, if you're going to rebuild them on NBA 2K or MLB The Show or whatever. Because, I mean, they're teams that really their problems are not instantly solvable, and their bad contracts run deep, and really, it's going to be a while until the Kings and the Padres can pull themselves out. I would of their misery, but I do want to go back to the Kings for a second. The Sacramento Kings depth chart. And I am looking up Kings depth chart. Obviously, the Sacramento Kings depth chart is actually the top one on there over the LA Kings, which does not bode well for the Kings. For the LA Kings. I do want to say this though. I do like where Sacramento is headed. Like, I don't think I touched on this as much because there's a lot of questionable guys in their roster, but I do like the direction where they're headed. Like, first of all, guys like De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley the third. I wonder what happened to the first two. I bet the second one was his dad. I'm betting. But I don't see a situation where this completely crumbles and falls this year, unless the Kings trade away all of their young talent. Because the Kings do have a nice, young, solid young core with them. With guys like De'Aaron Fox, and Buddy Hield, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's, by the way, one of the more underrated rookies last year. And then you have Bagley, obviously, who's the only real notable rookie that's not in a starting role right now. They're actually about I think what I think is neat about the Kings is they're not completely punting on the present. Like, their team is not good right now, but they're not completely tanking like the Sixers or like the Lakers a few years ago. Like, they are actually trying to win a few games. Like, they're not trying to lose every game is the point. Because what they do have is they have a veteran backcourt to mentor younger guys. Like, their starting front court right now, power forward and center, is Randolph and Cauley-Stein. And honestly, first of all, for reliability, you want vet bigs. Like, I get like rookie big man, like, you want to develop them. And it's not like veteran big man grow on trees. Like, all veterans have to be rookies before they become vets. This is obvious, but I do, if you're trying to foster guys, if I had to say, do you want to have at any position, at any part of the NBA core, what position would you most want to have veterans on? And I would definitely say, more than wings or guards, definitely I would say big men are the key as far as veteran play goes. Like, that's what you want. You want at least one or two solid veteran bigs. And I think they had that in Randolph and Cauley-Stein, who are aging, sure, but they at least have that foundation of guys that Bagley can learn from, among other guys. Cauley-Stein, I believe, is relatively young. He's not old, but he's not young, but he's relatively young. Yeah, he is. Oh, he's 25. So actually, Cauley-Stein is another one of that young core, but Cauley is a veteran. So Cauley-Stein is a veteran, but he is young. So I like how they had that. And then Randolph is a veteran. He's going to retire a few years down the line. But I do love where they're at right now because they have a bunch of young guys. And then except for Randolph in their starting lineup, but once Randolph's done, a guy's waiting in the wings and Bagley. So now that I think about it, I guess the Bagley move wasn't so bad. But then you look at their bench is solid, and they have guys like Farrell, Iman Shumpert, Justin Jackson, Harry Giles. Okay, but there's a lot of interesting talent on this team. Like, it's not like they're the greatest ever. They're nowhere near contention right now, and they're going to be a lottery team, but definitely. But I do know this about the Kings: they're not entirely punting on the present. They're not trying to win, but they're not saying, "Oh, we're going to take it like the Sixers." And I think the Kings are, if anything, on the rise because right now there's nowhere to go from there but up, from where they are but up. I do want to look at the assets they got in the DeMarcus Cousins trade for a second. Because I think the Marcus Cousins trade was such a big trade on so many levels. Because I believe it was the night after the All-Star game had ended. And just nothing was happening. But people were thinking about the Cousins rumors, the trade deadline was soon, and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, out of the 11th hour comes this trade. And everybody thinks to themselves, well, what the heck is going to happen now? And I honestly I thought the exact same thing. The Cousins trade is a big magnetic trade. A giant trade involving a superstar. I remember trades like the Paul George trade and the I forgot the other one, but the trades like the Paul George trade. And really, there were a couple of assets like Sabonis and Oladipo are two big talents that they got for George. But trades where like a lot of guys were traded for one-star player and then maybe a second one are getting rarer and rarer, in my opinion. So I do want to look at the DeMarcus Cousins trade, which we were going to pull up right now. Obviously, it means nothing to the Pelicans now because the Cousins and Davis experiment is now done. So the Cousins obviously was ejected on the bench, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so SB Nate. So it was described as nothing else than blockbuster. So here is what the Kings got in return. Buddy Hield, okay, who's still on the team, and he's a really guy in the rise. He's not exactly a great player, but he'll be a solid shooting guard, a solid wing player just to fill in. I wouldn't say he's a starter, but he's a very solid player. And then they have Tyreke Evans. Tyreke Evans, right now, guys. Tyreke Evans is a member of the. The Indiana Pacers. Tyreke Evans was traded back to the Kings, and then he signed with the Grizzlies that summer. So Evans is gone. Another guy they traded for, other than Hield and Evans, was it Langston Galloway? Yes, it was Langston Galloway, and we're gonna take a look at what he did just now. So Evans was drafted by the Kings, so he returned to them for like half a season, but he's gone. So that was nothing. Langston Galloway is now plays for the Pistons. He was on the Kings for, again, that same half season. And they got a first-round pick in their 2017 first-round and second-rounder. So, the 2017 draft, let's take a look at what that became. From what came from the DeMarcus Cousins trade. From Sacramento via Philadelphia, but that's the Celtics. So the Kings got their pick from New Orleans, and they traded it to the Blazers, and that became Zach Collins. Okay, and the Kings got Justin Jackson out of it. I do want to look at the Zach Collins trade for a second, just to see what that became, what came of that. Because just looking at this. The Blazers took Zach Collins 10th overall. So the trade they made was they traded the 15th and 20th selections. So out of the DeMarcus Cousins trade, they got the 15th and 20th selections, which they used on Justin Jackson, who's been okay, I guess. He's currently listed as second on their depth chart behind Bogan. And they got the 20th pick, which they used on the aforementioned Giles. So they basically filled out their bench, and then they filled out nothing else from that. So then we have the Kings got the New Orleans pick. Then they selected Frank Mason. Frank Mason is third string of the Pelicans. So currently, here's how the trade shook out. The Cousins trade shook out. They have two guys in Evans and Galloway who are gone. Hield, who's solid but not great. And then a bunch of guys riding the bench, and Giles, who's the backup center, Mason, who's the third string point guard, and the backup small forward in Justin Jackson. So 3 bench guys, 2 guys that are now gone, and Buddy Hield, who's their starter, who's not amazing. So a bunch of mediocre guys for DeMarcus Cousins basically was the trade. That's why the Kings are not good right now. And I know they need to get rid of him. They definitely should have tested his value more. And really, that might shake out to be a really bad trade. I'm going to look at the MLB, NBA, NFL, just individual rankings. Padres 1, Brewers 2, White Sox 3, Reds 4, and 5, the Mariners for MLB. And then NBA, obviously, Sacramento is number 1, like by a long shot, I know by now. I do want to look at the Padres one more time, and I want to talk about the Will Myers trade. Just for context, I was talking about him before and kind of trashing him. So I do want to say what happened. So it was an 11-player trade. So San Diego got Ryan Hannigan. Ryan Hannigan, just for reference, Ryan Hannigan is currently a free agent, and he was on the Rays for 1 year in 2014. So San Diego received Ryan Hannigan, who immediately left. Heading to Tampa Bay is Birch. Okay. San Diego got Jose Castillo, who is currently a solid relief pitcher. Okay. They also got Gerardo Reyes, who is currently listed as an actor, so apparently not notable in the MLB and just a prospect. So the Padres really didn't get anybody else except for like a solid reliever and a one-off catcher. The Rays got Birch Smith. Yeah, Birch Smith. He plays for the Royals now, and he was traded. And then he was immediately traded, which is sad. So he's a bullpen guy. He's still with the Royals, and he's not been great. He's 2-9 with a 6.65 earned run average. Birch Smith. Okay, Jake Bauers was also in the Will Myers deal. He plays for the Rays still, actually, so at least there's that. His MLB statistics is 201 average and 11 home runs in his career. So there you go. And then, of course, the Rays also got Rene Rivera for a little bit, and then he went. Rene Rivera as a journeyman. He's not been that great, and he was on the Rays for only that one season. And they also got Steven Souza, which was a good pick, but then Souza eventually went to the Diamondbacks. And then they got Travis Ott, who is not notable. And then Washington got Joe Ross, and wow. How about that? Look at that. Washington will receive right-hander Joe Ross. Washington actually may have won this deal, guys. Joe Ross is still a pitcher, and he's 25 years old, and he's only on the upside. He's 17-14 for his career, 3.95 average. He made his debut with the Nationals, and is still with them. And in 2018, he had a Tommy John surgery, but he made his first MLB start. He did okay. He threw 21 pitches, gave up one single in 1 2/3 innings. So he's back, and Joe Ross is good. And the other guy the Nationals got was Trea Turner. Trea Turner, guys, if you're not remembering, he was drafted by the Padres, traded in the Will Myers deal, and now he's one of the more exciting players in Major League Baseball. So the Padres immensely lost this deal. Another one of their stupid mistakes. So the Kings and Padres have been shaped by Will Myers and DeMarcus Cousins deals, both going in different directions, inward and outward, but still. I digress. I do want to discuss quickly the Buffalo Bills, and I just want to take a look at Nathan Peterman for a second, because I feel like we've been kind of dark today, we do deserve to get a little bit of humor out of this. Nathan Peterman's NFL debut was not great. This is the headline from The Guardian last year. Nathan Peterman's first start was one of the all-time great, terrible NFL debuts. The Bills quarterback started his first game after a solid appearance in relief and threw 5 picks. Okay. Nathan Peterman was replacing Tyrod Taylor, who eventually became a Browns quarterback, who is now a backup quarterback. Okay, so he attempted 14 passes in the first half, completing 6 of them to teammates. Okay, fine. And 5 others ending up in the hands of his opponent. So 11 out of 14, but of course 5 interceptions. So basically 6 out of 14 with 5 interceptions. And then he didn't have a second half, and then he was replaced by Tyrod Taylor. Here's what the Guardian said. The Guardian says, quote, Peterman's start was perplexing to many around football, who noted that Buffalo actually came to the game with a 5-4 record and legitimate playoff hopes. It seemed an odd time to suddenly start a first-year quarterback who wasn't even chosen until the 5th round of last spring's draft. But Peterman had played well in replacing Taylor during a blowout loss to New Orleans last week, and Buffalo's rookie head coach believed it was Peterman's time to step up. End quote. So that didn't end well. Obviously, Another quote from the Guardian says, Peterman has 5 picks in Bill's horror show. Okay. Mr. Peterman did not do so well in his first half of his first NFL start. And the Bills, where they stand right now, is not so great. I think I've articulated this before with really Josh Allen is their only weapon left. LaShawn McCoy aging. Really, the Bills do not have much hope right now, but I think I'm going to get to them in a future episode of Under the Radar, and that's going to about wrap it up for this week's episode. I know it's a little short this week, only 50 as opposed to the usual 60. Some people have actually wanted this. Obviously, everyone, please be sure to email me at undertheradarnsr@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, undertheradarnsr. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a terrific week, month, year, etc., etc. And, we'll see you next time on Under the Radar.